This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with guitarist Gary Holt of the American thrash metal act Exodus. Exodus is currently out on tour with Megadeth in Canada. Anthrax is also on the bill. How are things going so far?
It's awesome. There's no snow on the ground today, so that's good. Because it's been at times fucking freezing cold, like 18 below zero. But we're out of that now, and as we get more eastward, the weather's improving.
I see the black bunting behind you. Are the Canadians still in mourning over their hockey loss in the Olympics?
No, that's just where they covered up the lockers in the dressing room, but we like using the coat hangers. So we always re-drape them back up. You know, we should just tell them they don't have to bother.
Has Exodus been able to, how many songs has Exodus been able to add to the set from your upcoming album, Goliath?
Just one. We're playing 3-1-1-1, opening with it, because that one's been out for a little bit. And when we get to Europe later in the month, in March, when the album comes out, we'll add some more stuff.
Speaking of Goliath, it's your 12th studio album. It's set for release on March 20th through Napalm Records. Your last studio album was Persona Non Grata in 2021. How long after that album did you start writing Goliath?
We started really writing this like last year in the beginning of the year after Rob rejoined the band. You know, I've always got like 1,000 riffs, but as far as actually working on things, it started then, like about a year ago today, you know.
So when it comes to songwriting with Exodus, are you the primary songwriter, or does everybody have a little hand in it?
No, this is the most collaborative album we've ever done. Lee wrote 4 out of 6 songs. Lyrics are spread around quite a bit. So, you know, everybody contributed to this album. It's amazing.
Now, Exodus could rest on their catalog of the last 40 years. You could play shows year after year, playing your hits, playing full albums and whatnot. What inspires you guys to still continue to write new music?
Because we still have a lot to say. We're definitely not a legacy band that just wants to sit and play their old songs, and that's that. And we're also not a band that puts out a new album, goes out and plays one, and that's all they ever play. You know, we still make fucking awesome records, you know?
Were you guys able to get together in a studio, or were you writing and recording back and forth through file sharing?
Now, we live together when we record an album. We like rent a house, and everybody's all hands on deck, and works for us. You know, it's the way a lot of bands used to do it in the 70s anyway. You know, Deep Purple would go to Lake Geneva, Queen would go to some chateau in the south of France. We rent a Airbnb or a vacation rental home and build a studio.
Nice. At this stage, you Exodus produced this album yourselves. At this stage in your career, you pretty much know what you're doing. Don't really need that outside ear anymore.
No, we produce almost everything by ourselves. Even when Andy Sneap worked with us on most of our albums, most of them he was there to mix it, but you know, scheduling and all that, sometimes he wasn't available to produce it anyway. And we, even when he did so, we're there every second of the process. And we know what we want.
As you mentioned earlier, vocalist Rob Dukes rejoined Exodus at the beginning of 2025. Did you have to twist his arm or add anything special to his tour rider to get him to come back?
No, he likes smoking cigars, so he adds those on the rider, and occasionally he actually gets them. But we're super happy to have him back, and he's super happy to be here, so we're all thrilled.
Did you have a lot of the material written when he came back to the band, or was he able to get in there with a clean slate and write with you guys?
Clean slate. I mean, at the time he came in, I had a few songs done, but, you know, they hadn't even been shared with anybody other than with like Tom, you know, little garage band demos and stuff. But as far as like vocally, everything was a clean slate. There was no lyrics written, some titles and stuff like that, but everything was written fresh.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about some of the songs from the album? Let's talk about the album's title track, Goliath. You kind of built the album around this song. Tell me a little about it.
Well, the song, an interesting part of that song is I wrote most of that. I wrote the main riff, the verse, and the bass line behind the harmony section in 1999. And I wrote it when I was spun out of my brain, on meth back then. And every album since, getting clean, I've tried to finish that song, and it just could never separate myself from the dark period that it was created. But I knew it was heavy as hell, And then I tried it again, like I always do, and I did it, and I did it subconsciously, and I don't even know how it happened. And I sent Tom a text because Tom was there, and through all that dark stuff too, himself included. And I just sent him a text, said, check your email. And he listened to the little demo I did, and he goes, you fucking did it. You finished Creepy, because that's what we called it. And as far as using it for the title track, we just thought it represented the whole album perfectly because the album's a monster.
Do you find yourself revisiting kind of stuff that you never completed back when you were, I guess, strung out in the dark days? Do you find yourself kind of revisiting that material and trying to find ways to complete them?
No, just that one song. I mean, I've finished songs that were unused and turned out to be Exodus classics, but it wasn't tied to any drug use. It's just tied to why the fuck didn't I use it before? Like War is My Shepherd on Tempo the Damned, that came out in 2003. I wrote 90% of that song in 1987. I just double timed the tempo on most of it. I just made it really fast. It used to be like kind of driving, Judas Priest mid-tempo painkiller kind of thing, and I just sped it up. But like the whole arrangement, except for the solo section, was there and done. I don't know why I didn't use it. But every riff has its era and when it's time when it's supposed to be dropped.
Fair enough. One thing I noticed about listening to this album is like these little guitar licks that repeat themselves in several different songs, and it's really something that catches your ear and that can't be ignored, that not a lot of bands employ in the thrash metal field. Is that you playing those licks, or is that your guitar partner?
It depends on who wrote it. Like Lee wrote 4 out of 10 songs on the album, so depending on the song, it would be Lee or it'd be me. It just depends on the songwriter.
Tell me a little bit about the single that you're playing out live, 3111. What inspired?
Well, the song Rob came up with the subject matter, and then I contributed lyrics and a ton of research, and the number is how many people were murdered in Juarez in 2010. It's a lot of fucking death. And, then we did the video, and our director, Jim Laveau, said that YouTube might censor it or reject it, And they did, to the point of they threatened to remove our channel entirely if we attempted it again. So we had to do a censored version. But because of that, we did the director's cut version and created our own website for it, exodus3111.com, where you can see the real video, which is fucking hard to watch.
Was it going to be banned because of violence?
Yeah, real life footage. It's, the director's cut. It's got a lot of severed heads.
It's crazy.
It's got skinned faces, dismembered bodies, guts hanging out. It's gnarly, and the hypocrisy of it all is all the footage and photos all came from YouTube and fucking Google. The same people who threatened to remove our account for if we attempted to upload it has all that shit uploaded already. This fucking makes no sense at all.
You can only have it separate clips. You can't tie those clips together. It's a no-no.
No, you just can't put it in the context of a music video, I guess.
It's funny how musicians and artists are still facing censorship 40, 50 years later.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you expect some censorship, but being censored from the people who provided the footage is pretty funny.
Does Exodus have plans to release another single before the album comes out?
Yeah, well, I mean, Goliath is out, and we have one more video coming out. Should be out, I think, maybe within a week or so, and that's for the song "Promise You This."
Alrighty. This is your first album with Napalm Records. How did your signing with them come about?
We were free agents, and we have a long, awesome history with Nuclear Blast, but the label that we signed to is not the label they are now. That's not saying they don't do as good of a job, but we're all about personal relationships, and there was one person remaining that had been there when we signed our deal, and I didn't even know the new people. And now that person, one of my closest friends, has left and works for Napalm. So, it's awesome. But we wanted to go back to like having a one-on-one relationship with our label, and we kind of felt we just didn't know who to even talk to about things on the agenda. Their offer was every bit as strong, but we just opted for a new clean slate. We have a new label, new management, new agents, new singer, everything. It's wiped clean across the board. New merchandise company, everything.
Had you thought about maybe doing things on your own, going independent and releasing things either through like Bandcamp or through your website or at the show?
No, that's a recipe for doom. And people who say they do it, well, there's a reason your album isn't in any fucking stores and no one can find it, and it's not distributed, and there's no ad budget. You are your ad budget. You know how much those fucking full page magazine ads cost? And social media ads and all that. That's just not for us. I mean, it doesn't work. It only works if you're so big you are your own record label, and then you're doing all the things a record label does, but you can afford to do it yourself.
Okay.
Like Metallica has their own record label now. They don't need Elektra Records. They have Blackened Records, and they're a machine, and they can do that.
They also have their own vinyl printing press, I believe.
Yeah. They own the company that makes their vinyl, and that's awesome. It's amazing, but we're not at that level by any means. And so for us to like market an album ourselves, it would cost us a large amount of money.
Speaking of vinyl, you get some great looking vinyl for Goliath coming out. Are you a vinyl collecting guy?
No. I still have my old record collection, and I have, the collection of my own vinyl from Exodus, but I'm not a collector.
No.
I don't own a turntable.
Are you a classic black vinyl guy? What do you think of all these colors and these splatter designs and all these funky things that all the heavy metal bands have?
I like it. It's cool and stuff, it's colorful and cool to look at.
Exodus is going to be hooking up with Creator, Carcass, and Nails for a European and UK tour after the Megadeth run is over. Are these bands that you've played with in the past?
Yeah, for sure. We've toured with Creator, and we've never toured with Carcass, but they're some of our closest friends, so it's going to be a lot of fun. The Nails guys will soon enough be our close friends, and so it's going to be a blast.
European audiences and promoters seem to embrace heavy metal a little more than the US does these days. Would you agree?
No, I don't. We do just as well in America now as we do in Europe. It used to be the case though, but American audience is like really stepped up in the last several years.
Maybe they're hungry for guys that play their own instruments and write their own songs, and they got tired of the corporate machine, or now AI writing music.
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, I'd love to see bigger festivals over here in the U.S. like the European market has. It seems like there's a festival every week out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's Europe. Everything's a 1 to 2 hour flight away. America's a large country. I mean, we do have like tons of festivals here in America, but you kind of have to pick your destination spot, you know?
Right. After the European tour, it's back to the U.S. with Sepultura. Now, both Megadeth, who you're with now, and Sepultura, which you're playing with later, claim that they're on their final tours. Have you thought about a final run for Exodus?
No, I'm not ready to quit yet. I can't retire anyways. I got to keep working.
Are there any plans for Exodus touring beyond the date you have booked through May?
Yeah, we're booking stuff all through the year into next year.
For those,
we're going to be busy.
For those that might not know, you're also the guitarist for Slayer, and you have a couple festival appearances here in the U.S. this year. You're going to be at the 20th anniversary of Rocklahoma in September. You're going to be at Sick New World in Texas in October, celebrating the 40th anniversary of Rain and Blood. Are you guys going to be playing this from start to finish?
I don't know if we're going to play it all in order, but we'll be playing all of it. You know, I mean, that remains to be seen because the band always closes with Angel of Death, so I don't see that changing. But that, you know, Gary will let me know the set list when he has it.
You had the opportunity with Slayer to play Ozzy's final performance over the summer, the Back to the Beginning show. What was the experience like for you?
It was awesome. I hate to speak in cliches, but it was a bucket list moment. It was the greatest musical moment of my life. You know, being able to watch someone who meant so much to me as a young kid. I wasn't even a musician yet, and being able to see his final Ozzy and Sabbath performances was amazing.
In the 40 plus years you've been in the business, did you ever have the opportunity to meet or hang out with Ozzy?
No, we did. Slayer was out doing festivals in Europe many years ago, and Ozzy was supposed to play, and he got in that ATV accident, and so he didn't play. And I'd carried my my Black Sabbath Masters of Reality Converse all around Europe to get him signed. I did wear them for the first and only time at the Back to the Beginning show, though.
Do you have, in between your work with Slayer and what you got going on with Exodus, do you have any other music projects you're working on?
No, I mean, I produced a demo for this young band from Sacramento area called Parabellum. They're insane. They're like, I mean, only one of them's old enough to drink, and they're like so killer, and like they're incredible players, and they're still growing, so they're going to be rad. But other than that, I just hang out around the property and move dead trees and shit.
Do you see yourself, you know, kind of producing more demos as time goes on?
You know, only as time allows. You know, I just happen to have time to do it. I normally don't have a free moment for anything. So, you know, it's one of those things.
Well, Gary, those are all the questions I have for you today. The new Exodus album is Goliath. It comes out March 20th through Napalm Records. Fantastic record, and I want to thank you for taking the time to tell me more about it today.
Great. Thank you.